Good afternoon, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Walker here with 6th grade Life Science. And today, the standard we are going to focus on is Life Science 6th grade 1.1. Students will demonstrate an understanding that living things range from simple to complex organisms, are organized hierarchically, and function as whole living systems. There are 6 characteristics of living things. In my picture here, I have both non-living things depicted and I have living things depicted. I did this just because you might be wondering, well, if we're studying 6 characteristics of living things, what is a non-living thing? And as you look around your environment, you probably are seeing things like plants and animals and bugs and insects, and those things are all living. But non-living things are also very abundant in our environment. So I included a few pictures of some non-living things as well. We will revisit the difference between non-living and living in one of our next standards. We call those non-living things abiotic, and we call the living things biotic. And again, we'll revisit that again in the future. So characteristic number 1. All living things are made up of cells. They have what's called cellular organization. Now there are 2 types. We have unicellular, which means single-celled organism, and those are little teeny tiny organisms that can only be seen using a microscope. Then we also have multicellular organisms, and these are the ones that you can see when you look outside and you make observations about your environment. That means that they are made up of more than one cell. You and I are multicellular organisms. Now, those cells are in a hierarchy of order. They start from teeny tiny cells, individual cells, that are grouped together to create tissues. And as those tissues function together to do the same task, they are what's called organs. And those organs working with other organs create organ systems. So we go from simple to more complex as we're talking about multicellular organisms. As the second characteristic of all living things is that they require energy. They use energy. So energy is needed to carry on all the activities of living things. Energy is used for growth and repair. The main source of energy is the sun. This is how energy is obtained. So plants get their energy differently, and they are called autotrophs because they make their own food. Living things use food as a source of energy. Autotrophs make their own food. Autotrophs capture the sun's energy and use it along with water and carbon dioxide to make their own food. Auto means self and troph means feeder, so an autotroph is a self-feeder. Heterotrophs, which is what you and I are, we cannot make our own food. We have to get our energy indirectly from the sun by eating autotrophs or other heterotrophs, which means you and I have to consume plants and animals to get our energy. And we're called a heterotroph, an other feeder. Hetero means other, troph means feeder. So we have to get our food from something else. Number 3, growth and development. All living things have to grow in size to become larger. They also develop and become more complex. Living things use energy to create these cells in order to grow and develop. Number 4, we respond to our surroundings. A stimulus or a change in the environment causes a living thing to respond. So we have stimulus and response. I have a picture of a plant, and it's responding to the direction it's receiving its sunlight. And so it's reaching towards that sun and bending towards that sun. If a plant does not get adequate sunlight, it also responds by drooping and beginning to not function as well. You and I, we react and we respond to our environment, like in the picture here of the woman and the spider. She's responding to what she's seeing. But a more common response that I have to my environment every day is when I check the weather to decide, what should I wear to school today? Do I need a raincoat? Do I need a fleece? Should I wear a t-shirt? All of those are my response to the different changes in my environment, specifically the weather. Number 5, All living things have to be able to reproduce. Living things produce offspring, which are similar to the parent. Now, all living things reproduce either sexually or asexually. Asexual reproduction means there is a single parent involved and cells divide to create more copies of themselves. In sexual reproduction, that means there are two parents, and their offspring are similar to both parents that are involved. So reproduction is a requirement for living things. And finally, number 6, all living things have to maintain homeostasis. And homeostasis is the ability of an organism to maintain its internal environment despite conditions in the external environment. So like you and I, our bodies still function properly every day, and they maintain homeostasis. They maintain body temperature, they regulate water usage. We let ourselves know when we need more water by our brain telling us we're thirsty, so we drink water, or we eat food if we are hungry. We respond to outside human body temperatures. If it's hot outside, we sweat. If it's cold outside, we'll shiver. And that is our bodies trying to maintain homeostasis. We're trying to maintain that internal environment conditions despite what's happening outside. So in summary, I have just summarized the points that I went through with the slides. Number 1, living things are organized from tiny cells to complex organisms. Number 2, living things either make their own energy or require energy consumption. Number 3, all living things grow and develop. Number 4, living things are able to respond to change in their surroundings. Number 5, all living organisms can reproduce. And number 6, living organisms can maintain homeostasis. That's all for today's lesson. See you next time.